Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. Today is February 4th, 2015. It is 2 p.m. and we are located in room 540 South at 1 Judiciary Square here in Washington, D.C. It is our monthly meeting, as I mentioned, and today we have our two board members, Ms. Lathan and myself. We have a vacancy following last month's meeting. Ms. Richards resigned her position on the board, and we have a vacancy. And to that end, I'd like to recognize here in the meeting room today Anthony Stevens with the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments, and he is working with us to help find a new board member, and along with about 1 million other agencies and boards and commissions. So we thank him for his efforts on our behalf, and I will entrust the daily operations of that process to the directors of our two respective offices, because I know they have much to talk about. So we have a quorum, so move on to item 3, which is an adoption of the agenda, which was posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Any changes, Ms. Latham? No? Okay. Okay, so by consensus, we'll adopt the agenda and then go to item 4, which is a report by the Director of Open Government, Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Mayor's Office of Budget and Finance has requested that all agencies identify spending pressure and budget savings to help relieve a budget deficit facing the district in fiscal year 2016. On January 29th, Mr. Sobin and I met with Chris Murray, who is the Director of the Office of Budget Finance, and members of his budget review team to discuss BEGA's response to the Office of Budget Finance's budget process. We informed the team at that time that we have little more than $19,000 to share between the two offices for fiscal year 2016, and that's after the deduction of personal service and non-personal service expenditures, which includes board stipends. Therefore, we don't anticipate any budget savings and expect to draw down on the entire budget. We also pleaded our respective cases for enhancements for both offices. We've become very good at begging. I have requested an enhancement to support an attorney advisor position with the Office of Open Government to assist in handling Open Meetings Act complaints and trainings. The enhancement was submitted to Mr. Murray yesterday.
Okay.
Just as a point of notation here, our performance oversight hearing before the Committee on the Judiciary has been set for Thursday, February 12th at 10 a.m. in room 500. The complaint procedures rulemaking. The rulemaking setting out Open Meetings Act complaint procedures and making Open Meetings Act training mandatory became effective on January 26th. The complaint form is posted on the new Office of Open Government website. It's also included in your briefing materials in Dropbox. To date, no complaints have been filed. I did, however, receive a FOIA complaint from Janetta Rose Barris on January 25th. It was formally acknowledged on the 27th, I believe. The 25th was over the weekend. She had been seeking salary information on new administration appointees. I informed her that my office cannot compel any agency to produce information, but salary information is a category of record that is to be mandatorily disclosed without the submission of a FOIA request. Staff salaries were released, I noticed, to the city paper, and that article was published on January 29th. The website you have on all of the screens in the room, the new OpenDC website, it was soft launched on January 14th. The formal announcement about the new site was sent out on Twitter only on January 30th. There's still a great deal of overlap between BEGA DC and OpenDC. The boards and commissions list and meeting dates will remain on BEGA DC until I'm able to identify room in the budget to merge that data onto OpenDC. All of the archived videos of BEGA meetings will remain on BEGA DC.
Okay.
Video streaming of all BEGA meetings has been delayed. I'm still working with Octo on a more workable solution to provide video streaming for not just BEGA but all public bodies. As you may recall, the live web streaming is a requirement under the Mayor's Directive on Open Government and Transparency. The solution offered to BEGA, the Ustream solution, is an enterprise solution, and right now, if we're the only agency that uses it, it's a $30,000 cost, which we will not do.
Since we have $19,000 left in the budget.
I wasn't very good at math, but somehow I think that puts it in the red. So I'm working with Okta to come up with a more workable solution because I'm trying to get them to focus focus not just on BEGA and this office, but to make sure that any solutions that are offered, that all public bodies have the ability to use that same solution. The Office of Open Government and the Executive Office of the Mayor. So I met with the Mayor's Office of Talent, is it acquisition? Appointments, yeah. And the Deputy General Counsel to inform them of the requirements under the Open Meetings Act, the recent rulemaking, and the Directive on Transparency in Open Government. The director of MOTA expressed his desire at that time that the central calendar continue to be administered by the Office of Open Government. I have requested that MOTA please provide to my office the universe of boards and commissions so that the BEGA site may be updated and so that I can provide that list to OCTO so we can identify a workable solution for all public bodies to live stream their meetings. The new administration has still yet to confirm if it will continue to enact that order or retain the Mayor's Advisory Group on Open Government. It also has not notified my office of its direction concerning the central calendar or how it will continue to coordinate Open Meetings Act trainings with the Office of Open Government now that it's a mandatory requirement. Also, as it pertains to the annual FOIA report, I advised the Deputy General Counsel last month that the annual FOIA report would be due on February 1st to the Council. At last check on Monday, February 2nd, the report had not been issued. I have requested that once the report is submitted, that I be provided a copy for posting on the Open DC site. I've made numerous requests to the Office of the General Counsel and the administration, and it was also included in the best practices report on the open government recommendations that FOIA reporting be administered by this office, and I think this is a really good indication as to why it should be. But I suspected that it could have been one of those things that has fallen through the cracks during the transition, so hopefully the report will be issued soon. On trainings, I conducted one FOIA training this month for 2 staff members with the DC Public Charter Schools, and that concludes my update.
Okay, a couple things. One, going back to the website, it's beautiful. So I've spent a fair amount of time going through it, and it links great to the BEGA DC site, so you can find boards and commission meetings very easily and what's going on. It looks beautiful. We had a conversation during the week about the logo, because it was my experience with the DC government that sometimes they get, as my father would say, agita about doing anything that affects the bars and stars. But why don't you explain to us a little bit about what that symbol means on the Open DC website? So
the symbol, it's in addition to the imagery, it has a significant message behind it. You probably gathered that the pulling back of the DC flag represents the pulling back of the curtain on district government, representing transparency. And that symbol that you see there in the right-hand corner with the less than and greater than and the slash mark is a symbol for open code, which represents this office's focus on open data.
And I take it you've had no pushback about using the modified bars and stars?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I mean,
it's still early.
It is still early. Mm-hmm. I also want to thank you for reaching out to MOTA and developing that relationship, because I know that you're obviously already integrally a part of the boards and commissions, and you do training with them and you answer their questions, and you've managed to gather together the information about their meetings and have it posted. And I know from my meeting with Mr. Stevens earlier today that they're working very hard to get current information about the status, scope of responsibilities, the duties and requirements of all these boards and commissions. So, and I also know that based on our conversation, they're also committed to try to bring everybody up to the 21st century. So I appreciate your efforts in working with Mr. Stevens and MOTA in making those things happen.
You're welcome.
So I do. As for the FOIA report, I mean, given the fact that the administration is all of 30-something days new, I'm not surprised that not everything is done exactly on time. But part of your job, obviously, is to be the watchdog on these issues, and so gentle prodding is always appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Lathan, anything for Ms. Hughes?
Congratulations.
Oh, turn on your.
Congratulations. It's very beautiful.
Thank you. I'm glad you like the site.
Okay. So let's move on to the report by the Director of Government Ethics, Mr. Sobin.
All right. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. And thanks for accommodating the later start today. I think this is the second time we started later than we wanted to. In the new year, we were going to be starting earlier, and this is the second time we started late. But it was for a good reason. We were training one of the new council members in ethics, and so I appreciate the flexibility. So this past month, it's sort of been a short month since the last time we met. We opened 2 investigations. Unfortunately, we were unable to close any, and so that gives us back our usual average of 15 open investigations. We're current on our publication and reporting obligations, including the quarterly complaint report. Trainings really took up a lot of time these last few weeks. Attended by the staff was our own Mr. Burns, who went to the Reed interview and interrogation training. I think that lasted 4 days. And that's a well-known and recognized training program. We're lucky to be able to get him into it. Ms. Peterson, our office manager, and Ms. Patel, our general counsel, attended DCHR training on the new paid family leave process, so we're up on that. But really the majority of this was conducted by the staff. We did 11 in total. I conducted training for the mayor's cabinet at their very first cabinet meeting. We did full ethics trainings for DC Public Schools twice. We did a special customized 2-hour ethics training for Councilmember Nadeau and her staff. And as I said earlier, Councilmember Silverman and her staff today. We did a special customized 2-hour training for the Office of the Inspector General and their staff of 27 investigators.
And I heard very good reviews about that, so thank you very much.
It couldn't have gone better, I think, and there's a second one scheduled with the rest of the office. We also trained the Office of Unified Communications. We had 2 different one-on-one trainings on post-employment with high-level departing officials, as well as our regular 2 new employee orientations that occur every 2 weeks. I'm not sure we would list this under the trainings, but I had an opportunity to meet with the Inspector General, the DC Auditor, and the Office of the Chief Financial Officer to discuss cooperation among the agencies. And that was a very positive meeting as well, and I think the beginning of a regular series of meetings.
Excellent.
Item D, advisory opinions. There was 1 formal advisory opinion request on post-employment since the last meeting. The former employee wants to know whether, when starting a new business, he may have his clients companies that he worked with while he was with the district government. That opinion is still in progress. We're still working on 2 others, one based on a request on the Local Hatch Act, and another one based on, what was it, post-employment request?
It was a conflicts request.
I'm sorry, conflicts request. And we should have those done in due course. Again, we were, for whatever reason, we were just overwhelmed this month with requests for informal advice. In fact, we had 77 requests for informal advice this past month.
Although that which is a great thing. I mean, I'm glad that they're calling. I know that's a lot of work on your behalf, but it's a new administration. People are in new positions. New circumstances are presenting themselves. I'm so glad that they're calling. I'd rather have 77 informal advice calls than 77 enforcement actions.
And just to give the board a flavor of some of them, we received a question from the Office of Campaign Finance, another one of our colleague agencies, as to whether the mayor can co-host a fundraising event for a candidate for city council. The mayor, of course, is exempt from the Hatch Act, and so she can engage in political activities without limitation as long as they're not done on district work time or using district work resources or staff. We had a number of questions from relatively new high-level executives on what the requirements and prohibitions are for speaking at events, whether they can accept free tickets to industry events, and what constitutes impermissible gifts. We're delighted to be getting these questions and are working with people, including the mayor's general counsel and the city administrator's general counsel, to make sure that they understand what is and what is not permissible. We're also still getting post-employment questions, but anticipate that those will be tapering off pretty quickly.
Sure.
If I may, It's not a coincidence, if I may, it's not a coincidence that we conducted 11 full 2-hour trainings.
And got 77
And we got
calls.
77
Right, sure.
advisory calls. It's not a coincidence. The two are linked.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's terrific. I know that we've discussed in the prior meetings about the need for, and I know you're making a request for a body, an FTE, just to focus on training, and it sounds like that is becoming an imperative. So
I do have a question on the training, just an idea that I'd like your input on. Have we thought about doing some online training where you would have a training program first to train trainers in the individual departments, and then have an online training program where the individual employees would actually go online and they would do the training, then there would be questions and basically a little exam afterwards to see if they had their comprehension,
Right.
if they comprehended
It's
it.
a great
Just
suggestion,
Sort of
and we
cut
have-
down a bit on, you personally having to go and do all the training.
That is in the works. That is in the works. It'll never replace.
No.
Because
but to complement. So,
right, to complement it, exactly right. Yeah, it is in the works. We have the software to do it. It's just a matter of sitting down and finding some time to do it.
it also seems like and I know from having been through a number of these, that you get so many live questions as you're going through it, some of which pose, sort of real-time circumstances that, again, it's not replacing, but to the extent that we're going to have, refresher courses or, we're trying to capture all new employees as they come in. There's going to be lots of opportunity for face-to-face, but to the extent that there are opportunities to do online training as well.
And I was thinking of it also in the context, to deal with that situation of a lot of these agencies probably have their own person that's responsible for ethics. So if you train the trainer and then intense training of the trainer and then the online course, the person could still, the person who's been trained in ethics might be able to answer a lot of those questions.
Right.
Or at least they could at least bundle the questions and bring them to us.
Yep. Excuse me. That's exactly right. And just so you know, Ms. Petzelt was recorded during one of the sessions, the 2-hour sessions she gave, and we're in the process of trying to locate it. It was done by Octo, and during the transition, we're trying to find the right person who has it so we can actually just post it on the website as a first step. But we want, like you said earlier, something more collaborative that would ask questions and you could respond and be more interactive.
And if I just may say, definitely perfect compliment, but nothing replaces a trainer being there because, you'll do a 2-hour training and you'll get 20 informal advice requests during the training. While you're doing the training, and they won't be cagey about it. They won't say hypothetically.
Right.
They'll say, this is what's happening. Can you give me advice on the spot? And so, certainly complimentary, but nothing can ever replace someone on the spot to be able to answer those questions.
Right.
All right. Excellent. Down to item E. The best practices report is really getting some nice reception this year. We've had a couple of meetings already and have another one scheduled for tomorrow with council personnel on various aspects of the best practices report. We're really happy that so many council members and their staff are taking an interest in it and are thinking of legislation in connection with some of the recommendations.
That's great.
The way we're packaging it is, listen, if you're interested in some almost ready-made legislation, here it is. Yeah. Just take it. And so we've made sure not only that the previous council got the best practices report, but all the new council members as well. And again, as I said, we've had 2 meetings already, and we have another one tomorrow. Mr. Grimaldi will be attending with me. Item F, the Comprehensive Code of Conduct. We received some useful comments on the Comprehensive Code of Conduct by the former transition attorney to the mayor, Thorne Posen, who's also the former DC Ethics Counselor. We also had a meeting with the new General Counsel to the mayor, Betsy Cavendish, and Rob Hawkins, the mayor's Deputy General Counsel, to discuss various aspects of it, timing, format, method of introduction. We just wanted to really get the ball moving with them and get them on board. We look forward to getting some substantive comments from them in the near future. Any questions before I move on to the budget stuff on that? I guess Mr. Grimaldi can speak a little bit to where we actually are with the Comprehensive Code of Conduct and what the next steps are.
Okay. What I've begun doing is, as you have described it, the side-by-side. We are actively thinking about the legislative package, which is ultimately going to go the side-by-side is a memo, really, that can get morphed into
Committee
the
report.
committee report.
Sure.
So for starters, I've started on the section-by-section analysis, article by article, and I am trying my darndest not to just rewrite the code, but yet capture enough so that somebody could read a paragraph and understand what's in a given article. So that's in the works. That obviously will be a work in progress as we get comments back from different sources, including your own.
Right.
But it's underway.
Well, I've been through it a couple of times now, and I think that it's terrific in draft. I think that there are a couple of thorny issues that we're going to have to slog through when we get the comments back from the Executive Office of the Mayor and the Council, because I understand that we may be getting comments from them still as well. And I think that...
Well, here's the problem. The General Counsel to the Council is leaving in the next month, and so we may not be getting comments from them.
But even if we had a sit down with him, where if he didn't have the time to memorialize everything and with commas and periods, but at least got the where he believes, because he's had such great experience with the council and has an understanding of kind of where as a body it sits, to have his insights, even if it is just on sort of where the bigger pressure points are, would be hugely valuable, because it might help us get some insight about what we should be addressing now before it goes. And, because we do want to be as inclusive as possible. We can't just delay it forever, though. That's the other thing.
Okay. So. Yep, we'll do that. All right. The budget, Director Hughes has already spoken about the request by the mayor for the cuts to deal with the fiscal shortfall that the district is experiencing. Let me just expound a little bit about our budget enhancement. You have the enhancement request itself in the Dropbox if you want to take a look at it. But just to explain a little bit for the sake of, as Councilmember McDuffie would say, for the folks at home, we've submitted a request for a budget enhancement for fiscal year 2016 to fund 2 additional FTEs, one for the Office of Open Government and one, as we stated in the best practices report, for an ethics trainer for OGE, or the Office of Government Ethics. The request is to meet the ever-increasing demand for trainings. In calendar year 2014, the Office of Government Ethics conducted 84 trainings, which I found to be an astounding number when we finally compiled it, which included all new employees of the district government. OGE trainings typically are 2 hours in length. They're a huge burden on the office staff, and it's not unusual for the director to conduct these trainings, me, because of the lack of available staff. There are only 3 staff members qualified to conduct ethics trainings, and 2 of them are sitting next to me. Part of the problem with this is that our performance indicators under our performance plan include time limits on other core functions, such as advisory opinion issuance, 30 days, and completion of investigations, as you know, 90 days. The training commitments make it difficult to meet these deadlines on a consistent basis. An additional FTE would permit existing staff to concentrate their efforts on other regular activities of the office. Finally, it has been OGE's experience that the training function is critically important to avoid costly investigations and enforcement proceedings when employees sometimes unwittingly run afoul of the ethics rules. And what I've just explained to you is contained, as you'll see, in the text of the budget enhancement request. Okay. Item H, lobbyist financial disclosure matters.
Sorry, to budget for a minute here. I'm just trying to understand with $19,000, what happens when 2 areas. One, I understand we've been given the attorney certification to handle, or at least just they will be residing with us, right? So we've got that coming in.
Yes.
And then we have to do the lobbyist registration and the audit function with respect to that.
Right.
And what happens if we have another adversarial proceeding? I mean, there's not.
Yeah. Well, we'd have a problem, but we do have emergency funds that we can dip into. If the case is a lobbyist enforcement proceeding, we can use lobbyist funds. which we should have some availability. I don't have the numbers in front of me. And we have the fine fund account. So if it's an enforcement proceeding that does not include a lobbyist, we could use funds from the fine account to make up the shortfall. We've also discussed, in future proceedings, doing away with a court reporter and doing a recordation, like OAH does, the Office of Administrative Hearings, and then for transcription purposes, expending the money then if necessary. Again, we're not there yet, and we want to make sure the system is working.
And there's some interesting logistical issues about that and appeals and the rest.
Yeah, I would think if I'm the party, the respondent, that might be very difficult.
Well, even the court, I've had long conversations with Chief Judge Washington about the issues with OAH and when their matters are appealed, because their records, they don't have what they're used to in terms of a record.
Right.
And then the challenge in an OAH case, because most of those respondents are unrepresented and don't have the resources to produce the transcripts they need to appeal, it becomes kind of an issue. Now, we don't have the volume that OAH does, clearly. And at the moment, we're not even quite sure where our appeals go.
Right.
So
neither are the respondents.
Yeah. So I think that it is something to be I think Deborah's right, to be very mindful of how much money we're spending, and then the idea that we for some of these, it probably is not an issue. That in a first instance to go ahead and record the way the Superior Court does for lots of its hearings. Just they don't have court reporters for every one of their cases. But in a case like we had this past summer, knowing full well that transcripts were going to be required for lots of different reasons, you'd have to sort of think about that. Now, of course, those are the most expensive ones, but those may be the ones where you save your money for. But again, at the moment, we don't have anything pending in terms of an adversarial hearing, so we're okay.
Wow.
Okay.
But something to keep.
But I recall there was one matter that was being worked on that could actually lead to an adversarial hearing.
Yeah, it's not public yet, so we
Right.
we
I
can't
know we
discuss
can't go into it, but that's why I'm saying that could be fairly complicated and time consuming.
It could be.
So is it a matter of public record how much we do have in funds from our fines and not stipulated,
Yeah, the fine funds and the lobbyist funds.
Yes.
It is. I just don't have those numbers in front of me at the moment.
But would there be sufficient funds from the enforcement side for a proceeding?
Yes. Okay. I believe so. At least one proceeding.
A proceeding.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Item H, lobbyist and financial disclosure matters. The January 2015 lobbyist registration and activity report filing periods have been completed. We are finishing the input of hard copy paper forms that were filed, reviewing submissions for completeness, and preparing to issue fines for late filing and noncompliance. I am personally disappointed in the number of electronic filings that were made. We were expecting a greater number. Out of 300 activity reports, 100 of them were hard copies. So still a third of them are being filed as hard copies. And out of 150 registrations, or 150 registrations out of 181 were hard copies. And that's I don't know what's going to happen next time around when we require that it be electronically filed.
Right. I think we're going to have a similar, the way we had with financial disclosures our first year. I think we're going to do the same thing with lobbyist registration, and activity. But I think giving them as much warning ahead of time. It's coming. I just got a note from I'm a member of the New Jersey State Bar, and so I just got a notice that they're going to electronic management of all their membership stuff, and they sent a notice now, even though it's not due until the summertime. Get ready, it's coming, it's coming. Get ready.
I'll tell you what's particularly disappointing. We now have improved our communication with the lobbyists by having all their email addresses and being able to send notices by email in addition. And we let them know about a training we were going to be doing on how to file electronically. And I went up there, Ms. Betzelt was up there, and not one person showed up for the training, and we canceled the training. As a result, we waited for 45 minutes, and no one showed. It was going to be a 3-hour workshop. And we even put a note on the door saying, if you show up and you want training on this, come down to our office. And no one ever came.
Wow.
So we have our work cut out for us there. Financial disclosure matters. Our vendor DataNet is making changes to the FDS system, and we're preparing for the upcoming FDS filing period. Meanwhile, OAG is working on enforcement actions we sent to them regarding 2013 filers who did not pay fines imposed because they failed to file. Given the new March 1st date for agency heads to submit their list of public filers to us, we'll be sending out our annual FDS memo to agency heads, general counsel, and agency ethics counselors later this month, detailing their financial disclosure requirements. And that's all I have on the FDS stuff. For item I, non-confidential investigations, we don't have anything to discuss this month.
Okay. All right, then, which takes us to Roman numeral 6, which is an opportunity for public comment. We are going to go to a closed session today. I think it'll be relatively short, but we always give members of the public the chance to comment on issues that might be relevant before the board. And if anybody would like to do so, now would be the time. And hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to the executive non-public session. And I'll entertain a motion to close the proceedings for purposes to discuss confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code 2-575B, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Code 2-575B13, and personnel matters pursuant to DC Official Code 2-575B10.
I can't repeat all of that, but I...
So moved?
So moved.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and second my own motion since there's no one else to do it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and go to a closed meeting. The time is now 2:35. Well, we will reopen the meeting at least to adjourn at the end. I can't imagine it'll be more than 10 minutes or so.
Next to me. Just so we can just get you.
Okay, the time is 2:44, and we're back in public session. There's nothing to report from the closed session publicly, and so therefore we will go ahead and adjourn. But I think we have. Do you want to say hi?
Say hi, introduce myself. I'm an associate. My name is Jason Facci. I work for Thorne Posen's firm.
Oh, terrific.
So he asked me to attend on his behalf. So I just
great.
wanted to introduce myself to everyone. And
Oh, Jason, what's your last name?
Facci, Facci. Yeah.
Yeah. So we rely on, heavily respect tremendously, and miss him. So you can pass that along to Thorne.
Okay. Well, yeah.
And thanks for coming today.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 2:45. We are adjourned till next month.
I'm Traci. Thanks for coming in. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
When is your open house?